In all combat sports, from MMA to boxing to Muay Thai, there are few attributes as coveted as a granite chin. We've all seen those seemingly indestructible fighters who can take endless punishment and continue to walk forward. A good chin is key to longevity in a fighter. Glass cannons may be exciting from time to time, but they rarely make it to the pinnacle of the sport. So what is it that makes a legendary chin? In this video we will go over 5 factors that make up a fighter's ability to take a punch. Before we get into the list, we just want to note that we're not accounting for a fighter's ability to slip or roll with punches or other technical skills, just the physical attributes that play a factor. The first factor on the list, and probably the most underappreciated factor, is dehydration. MMA fighters, and to a lesser extent boxers, undergo significant dehydration to make weight for their fights. Many fighters cut more weight than they should be, with the goal of dropping another weight class, but it isn't always worth it. Aside from feeling like crap and losing performance, the extreme dehydration can also make you more susceptible to concussions and knockouts. Dehydration doesn't only affect the body but the brain as well, leading to dehydrated brain cells and a reduction in the cerebrospinal fluid that surrounds the brain. This fluid acts as a cushion for the brain, so if some of it is lost, it becomes easier for the brain to rock back and forth when taking a blow. Combine that with the dehydrated neurons, which are more susceptible to damage, and your concussion and knockout risk shoots up. We've seen many fighters who struggle at lower weight classes and even get knocked out, only to look nearly indestructible once they've moved up. Thiago Santos, Rumble Johnson, Dustin Poirier, the list goes on and on. Moving on to the second factor, this is a more obvious one, and that is the thickness of a fighter's neck. Muscles act as shock absorbers for blows all over the body, and the neck is no exception. Knockouts are caused by concussions, which are caused by the brain shifting inside the skull. If the muscles in the neck can absorb more of the force from a punch, less of it goes into whipping your head back. There are 26 muscles in the neck, but only a few truly work to absorb shock, the main ones being the trapezius and the sternocleidomastoid muscles. It's a mouthful, but the sternocleidomastoid muscles are on the side of the neck and control the turning and flexing of the neck. The traps connect the neck with the upper back, dispersing the force away from your head. This is why trap exercises like shrugs and neck exercises like the iron neck are so popular among fighters. It can be pretty obvious when a fighter is benefiting from a thick neck too, with fighters like Yoel Romero, who is more likely to break your shin with a skull than you are to knock him out with a kick. Moving on to factor number 3. This is another somewhat overlooked one, and that is accumulated career damage. We've seen it many times with fighters like Mark Hunt, Chuck Liddell, and Alistair Overeem, who early in their careers had chins as durable as brick walls, but later in their careers experienced several bad knockout losses. There's a good analogy to describe the accumulation of concussion damage, the jam jar analogy. Let's say you get a new jar of strawberry jam. The first time you open it, it'll be stiff and require some effort to open the lid. The second time you open it, it'll still be somewhat stiff, but a little easier than the first. By the 10th time you open the jar, the lid spins right off. Concussions work the same way. Once the floodgates are open, subsequent concussions and knockouts come easier and easier. The more damage and more knockouts a fighter has experienced, the worse their chin will be. This damage isn't always accumulated in the cage though. You often hear about a lot of fighters who accumulate a lot of damage training too hard or sparring too hard in the gym. Instead of saving it for the fight, they leave it all in the gym, shortening their careers. The next factor on the list is a bit more anecdotal than the rest of the factors, since it hasn't been studied in a scientific setting, but many coaches, fighters, and fans will swear by it. This factor is the size of a fighter's head and thickness of their skull. Prevailing wisdom states that a bigger head and a thicker skull gives you a stronger chin. This is believed to be the case because a bigger head and thicker bones provide more weight and density to your head, and bigger things tend to absorb and dissipate force better. After all, would you prefer to be in a car accident in a Mini Cooper or a pickup truck? This is pure speculation though, and although there is some logic behind it, we'll let you be the judge. Lastly, we have the shape and structure of the jaw itself. If you've been around combat sports for a while, you know that the jaw is the best place to land a knockout blow. There are a couple other good places like behind the ear, but none are as high percentage as a clean shot to the chin. This is because knockouts come from the movement of the brain inside the skull, and landing on the jaw allows for the most violent twisting of the head or torsion. If you want to feel the difference yourself safely, lightly tap your fist against your temple a few times, and then against your jaw with the same force. You should feel the difference. If a fighter's jaw is more pointy and protruded, not only does it provide a longer lever for more force, it'll also be easier to hit clean. If the jaw is more squared and wide, you get the opposite effect. A fighter's ability to keep their jaw closed throughout the fight will also affect their chin, since an open mouth creates a longer lever for a knockout shot. So you can count cardio as somewhat of a sixth factor if you want. After hearing this list, you might notice 2 trends. The first being that all of these factors work by mitigating the movement of the brain, which is always key to avoid being knocked out. Secondly, most of these factors are genetic and generally out of your control. Sure, you can work out your neck, but you may never have a neck like Raul Romero, no matter how hard you try. Like many traits in fighting, such as reach and power, your ability to take a punch is largely determined by your genetics, but good training and learning how to roll with or avoid punches can help level the playing field. Thank you for watching our video. If you enjoyed, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for future content.